Welcome to season 11 of How to Start Up, the podcast helping you start and scale your business with advice from entrepreneurs on what to do now, next, or never. This season, we'll be hearing about all things productivity from amazing entrepreneurs sharing how they've hacked theirs. Hosted by me, Juliet Fallowfield, founder of the B Corp certified PR communications and podcasting consultancy, Fallowfield & Mason. Our mission is to enable you to master your own storytelling, whether that be via PR or podcasting, all with a long-term view. CIPD research shows that 67% of UK working women aged between 40 and 60 with menopausal symptoms have experienced a negative impact on their work, with 79% reporting feeling less able to concentrate. Clearly, hormones play a large role in our lives as female founders of all ages. With this in mind, I wanted to hear from a team with great experience in helping people overcome their hormonal imbalances. Margo Marrone, founder of The Organic Pharmacy, and her daughter Roxy are the co-founders of eyeam, the solution-led skincare, supplements and education brand. Inspired by Roxy's own experience with adult acne and hormonal imbalance, the duo are now supporting people to overcome debilitating conditions which impact their energy both at work and at home. Keep listening to hear Roxy and Margo's advice on how founders can harness their hormones at work and how they can also create a supportive environment for their teams too. Hi, Margo and Roxy. Thank you so much for your time on How to Start Up today. Before we get into the episode, I'd love it if you could just give a brief introduction as to who you are and a bit about the background of the businesses that you started.
I'm Margo. I founded Organic Pharmacy 25 years ago. I then sold it 8 years ago and co-founded eyeam with Roxy around 2 years ago.
Amazing. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And my background is I'm a pharmacist, homeopath, entrepreneur, and of course, a cosmetic formulator and an energy healer.
She did her training in shamanism and then in evangelistic pastoral training.
Yeah, I'm just about to be ordained a pastor. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And Roxy, the reason you know all of this is because you are...
Yeah, so my background's in health coaching, holistic health coaching, specifically around hormones and gut health, because my whole reason for even going into that field is because when I was suffering on my own healing journey, no one could give me answers. Mum was obviously giving me really good answers, but unfortunately, the information out there at that moment in time was not suitable. So I had to go into more and more depth about it. And that's what kind of led me to my training and then led me to start eyeam with Mum.
It's amazing. Well, the fact that you're mother-daughter and you're working together and you're still talking to each other, I think is a minor miracle, because lots of mothers and daughters would always be like, hell no. So what led you to A, work together, but B, start the business and the brand that you have?
Well, really, it was my own personal journey with hormonal acne and hormonal imbalance. That was where eyeam was born, because I had come off contraceptive pill and I had a whole plethora of symptoms that I'd never experienced in my life. You know, cystic acne, mood swings, weight issues, really, really a lot of mental disorder, gut issues. And when I did all my research, I was like, this actually makes a lot of sense, because these are all symptoms of the contraceptive pill, but they don't actually tell you any of this fully. They don't tell you that it stops your period.
So like 99% of people I've interviewed, it's born out of a problem you wanted to fix for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And really, Roxy, when she came to me with the problem, for me, what was really, really interesting was the emotional effect that it had on her.
Mm-hmm.
She was absolutely devastated emotionally. And I think that was really the beginning of the journey. And I always think out of something traumatic, always something good happens. Mm-hmm. And just watching her these last 2.5 years just blossom into this incredible, she's always been an incredible human being, but
like mother, like daughter.
Obviously
transformed into this, I don't know, like this health guru who is like so inspirational and so amazing. And just to watch her conquer all of her issues and problems. And what I said to her is that it's so beautiful to watch as a mother, but it's also beautiful to watch as a healer, because dealing with these issues in her early 20s is phenomenal. I mean, I didn't deal with my issues until I was in my 50s.
So that's really where eyeam was born. And it really is a very emotional project for us. And I call it my healing toolbox, and just wanting to share everything in my healing toolbox to help people with the same problem. And that's really why we have affirmations tied with each of our product that you say at the same time. And that's something I learned as a coach, is at the process of habit stacking. So stacking 2 habits together to make one of them stick. And now I literally can't go a day without using my eye serum and saying my affirmations. Like, I feel like something is wrong. I'm like, like something's missing in my step.
Well, it's so interesting you say this. I became self-employed just over 4 years ago. And going from that world to this world, I didn't know that this world really existed. I'd seen people start companies and I knew it was a thing, but I was on a career path. I was moving brand to brand and I was getting promoted. And then suddenly I found myself self-employed. And a lot of friends who are back in the old world are like, oh, you get endless holiday and you can work any way that you like. And my goodness, it must be the best life you've ever had. I'm like, are you joking? I've never been more tired. I've gave up meditation, exercise, healthy eating, sleep, all of the things that I should have been doing to maintain and really protect myself and look after myself were harder to grasp because I needed more time to work. And I think when you lose the structure and you lose the big boss expecting you to be at your desk at a certain time, you're like, well, okay, maybe I'll sleep in for an hour this morning because I'm really tired and it doesn't matter because I don't have a meeting till 10, but that means I'm not going to go to the gym. Whereas if you're working with someone else, you just get up and go. You're on a bit more of a rule book. And I think, especially with female founders, and we know that so many more women need to be empowered to start businesses because our entire GDP will benefit. Alison Rose review is well quoted. But a lot of women have a lot of barriers to entry in the sense that they have many more stakeholders at home that need them, and they have more strains on their personal lives as well. But your hormones, it's so annoying. I feel like we should get a tax break for being women because even things like I work in a co-working office and I'm in the gym with all the guys I work with in a co-working office, and it takes me 20 minutes longer to get to my desk because I have to dry my hair and I put makeup on. It's like, well, Jules, you don't have to do that. I'm like, I'm 43. I'm taught that that's what I have to do. And that's 20 minutes I don't have, which is ridiculous. Bad example. But the hormones, I have periods. I have hormonal imbalances. It's not fair.
Well, do you know what? This is exactly what we're talking about. And I'm going to tell you how, if you work with yourself, that all of that is a lie.
Right. Let's go. What does harnessing your hormones mean to you?
So really, we're going to talk about what you just stated was what happens when you go against what your body is telling you. Essentially, that's literally what is your body is saying, hun, we need a sec. And it's okay that you need a sec. So what balancing your hormones means to me is cycle syncing. And, we're made of 4 phases during our menstrual cycle. So in 28 days, we have 4 different phases. And that means we have 4 different sides to us and 4 different sets of skills. So it's not a bad thing that we have all of these amazing phases, but we actually have certain skills during each phase that we can use to our advantage. But if you're going against the skill set that you are most capable of that moment, that's when you experience the hormonal imbalance, the irritability. Yeah.
This my future self sometimes looks back at my past self and like, who the hell booked that in my calendar? I am exhausted. So what are the 4 phases?
So we've got follicular, we've got ovulatory, luteal, and menstrual. Your follicular is just after your period, and it's something that you feel energized, ready to go. It's really good for planning. So scheduling, planning, strategizing, that sort of thing. Then you got your ovulatory, which is when you feel communicative and social. So you want to bang out all your events, talks, podcasts, even. That's like the time to do it. I'm in my luteal, but I talk about this later where we can do anything at any time. But it's like how you set yourself up to manage all of them so that you don't get burnt out, you don't get tired. And then luteal is for detail-driven methods and detail-driven work. So really looking at all the fine lines, doing all the paperwork, admin, that sort of thing. And then menstrual is reflecting, because that's the only time in our cycle. So our hormones are at the lowest, but our 2 hemispheres of our brain, our left and our right. So our left is the analytical and the right is our feeling side, but they're the only time that they're firing at each other. So you're actually in a moment in your body that you can reflect and analyze really deeply. So you can actually see things that you may have not been able to see in your follicular phase or in your ovulatory phase, because you're like, go, 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 ready to go. And that's actually why you're saying, oh, a man has it so easy. Actually, we have the advantage.
Superpower now.
It totally is. But unfortunately, because of cultural conditioning of being made to feel, oh, you're so hormonal. Oh, is it your time of the month? Oh, this, oh, that. Actually, I'm Superwoman.
Also, once we get to know our bodies
Yeah.
and to know ourselves, we know that actually during that period, it's okay to rest more. And during that period, it's okay to do something else. And I think as women, we don't give ourselves permission to rest and say, do you know what? Today, I actually need to rest this afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself the afternoon off. Perfectly fine.
Because you restore your batteries and you come back stronger, better, brighter.
We actually work better.
Yeah. And that's it. When you're starting a business, you will do anything for time, anything for efficiency. And this is why this whole season's about productivity. And 51% of the global population are women. So this is really important to highlight. And same said co-workers, when you try, in fact, I was so proud of one of my colleagues. She was talking about her period in front of our male colleague. I was like, back in the day, that would never happen. And I was like,
never.
No one's embarrassed. Everyone's fine with this. I'm the old one here.
Nobody
This
cares.
is amazing.
Nobody cares.
And I think that's something that we talk about is communication. It's
Yeah.
really taking the shame out of everything and just saying, actually, do you know what? Today I feel like this and I'm just letting you know and it's okay.
Yeah. I think that is the autonomy that we can afford ourselves as founders, is managing your diary, but managing it with the sense with these 4 phases in mind and going, you know what, don't put new business pictures on that day. Go for a walk instead. You can still work and still be effective, but it's choosing your battles. And I think as women, especially, it's changing a little bit, but I think we're so pressured to do more. Nothing is enough. Nothing's ever good enough. You must do more. Actually, less. This is my mantra for the whole year. Less is more.
That's what we've said as well.
Yeah. Work smarter, not
harder.
harder.
Yeah, completely. Hello, we're just taking a quick break to announce our new podcast training course. If you're thinking about starting a podcast but have no idea what to do first, this is for you. Over an 8-week program, you'll have a weekly webinar with myself, plus 2 one-on-one consulting calls, and this is all backed up by 8 written guides to help you learn everything that we have learnt in getting How to Start Up in the top 25% podcasts. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast but not sure what to do, just DM us to find out more. And so what practical pieces of advice would you offer founders to harness their hormones? How should they go about this?
Well, number one is always listening to your body. So really listening to your needs, and rather than pushing yourself to the limit, which I definitely used to do. So actually my hormonal acne was definitely brought on by stress, and mine was such a physical reaction that my skin would start to itch. So like I could actually feel it coming on. And I noticed when I was pushing myself harder at work, my skin would itch. I notice even now, like if I start pushing myself to the brim, I start to get itchy skin.
Your body sends physical handbrakes. And ironically, for me, it's my voice. The one thing I need to do my job is my voice. And for the last 2 years, I've had a dysfunctional larynx. And I'm like, really? And it's because my brain isn't listening. So my body's sending me an alarm bell.
We always say your body always will communicate to you what you're not listening to in your mind and your spirit. And that's actually why our 4 pillars are mind, body, spirit, and skin, because it all starts with the spirit. And then if you don't listen to that, then it starts to affect your mind and can look like anxiety, stress, depression, obsessive thinking. And then if you still ignore that, then it moves on to your body and starts coming on with physical symptoms. So that was my personal journey. And I know a lot of people can resonate with that as well.
Yeah. And would this affect only women?
So it can affect everyone. Of course, stress can affect everyone. But the reason that we really focus on women is because most of the studies that are done on everything, whether it be diet, blood tests, vaccines, they're all done on men because their biological hormonal system is much easier to work with, because otherwise they would have had to test women 4 different times in the month, whereas a man, they can just test them in one day, because what a man experiences in a day, we actually experience throughout the whole month. So that's actually why we're getting burnt out at work, because our work day is tailored to a man. So yes, a man can do this, but it's not really like, that's why we're not talking about men here, because we are set up for failure. So we need to take charge and say, hey, no, we're going to do what's right for us. That's why we created our hormone balancing supplement, because it really targets stress, anxiety, blood sugar stability, inflammation, a hormone balancing, like all in one, to really help women, emotional regulation, nervous system regulation, all of the fun stuff. That would be that, and magnesium are our two favorite sort of supplements to really cope with all of that. But
yes, it can affect both genders, just in different ways. It affects women very differently to men. And so we can't treat them in the same way. So as Roxy says, for men, those phases happen in one day within 24 hours, whereas for women, it's over 28 days.
Yeah. And also, if you look at statistics, 75% of women are diagnosed with autoimmune disease over men. And actually 5 million women have PCOS. And so this is not a mistake. It's because we've been neglected, honestly. And so our big part of our brand is to help educate people and say, hey, you don't need to suffer.
So that's women from puberty onwards, and then you chuck in menopause.
That's where I come in as the expert, having been through it. Again, very little has been done on women going through the menopause. I think HRT was the answer to everything. And HRT does help enormously. But I don't know if you've read Lisa Snowdon's book.
Not yet, but I'm starting to compile a list.
She summarizes everything in there, and it's literally you're confused, you don't know what's going on. It's a sudden shock to the system. The hormones are all over the place, and it's just literally thinking, oh my God, what's happening to my body? And you have to slow down, you have to listen to it. And you have to just really take the time to think about what's going on, what am I feeling, what do I need? And then find the solutions to it.
And know that we're not the same every day.
It's a change.
I feel like I got to my 30s and I probably had 2 years where I was like, great, I'm an adult, I know myself, I know what I'm doing in life. And then suddenly life shifts, that you start caring for parents, or other stuff happens where life gets stressful in another way. And then you chuck in perimenopause, and menopause, like, really, guys, this is just another thing. And then the fact that men don't have to deal with it does feel really unfair. I started my business when I was 39. I'm now 43. Can people balance their hormones and start companies? Is it a huge task?
Well, I'll say from experience, I've done it.
You've done both.
I've literally done both at the same time, because I was still very much on my journey when we had started the brand.
Study number one.
Yeah, I was study number one. So I was literally the person. And actually, my work has given me the opportunity to learn so much about myself, learn how to help others, and actually work through so much stuff that I probably wouldn't have if I didn't have my business. And that's obviously a personal choice, because I chose a business that worked in wellness. But do what you love so that you can always do everything in one go. If you're going to start a business, then do it in something that feels right to you. And if you're on your healing journey, then you'll feel more connected to that.
I think managing your hormones isn't just a physical thing. It very much is a mental, emotional, and spiritual journey. And I think that had I known this 20 years ago, I would have been a different person, but that wasn't my journey. So what I would encourage other women to do is really start to look at yourselves. You know, I had fibroids in my mid 40s, which led me on to have a hysterectomy. But we just battle on, you see.
Yeah.
I was taught to battle on, no matter what's going on, just battle on. And my body was like, no, you need to look at what's going on. You need to rest.
Yeah.
You need to take time out. And my mentality was, no, I'm running a business. I'm just going to battle on.
Yeah.
And what I would say to women is, it's okay to have some rest.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like failure. We're taught not to make a fuss. Don't step out of your lane. Who do you think you are? You're not good enough unless you're married, successful with children. But this is not sustainable, especially as we know the working week was designed by Ford and employed men, and now women are working. Like, the working week is not structured well. But given when you start a business, it is going to be stressful. how does stress impact your hormones?
So cortisol is our stress hormone, and that is a factor,
Yeah.
but we need cortisol to function. We actually need it to wake up. However, there's an analogy that mum always says of a pendulum. And she says that you can either be at the bottom of the pendulum swinging round and round and round,
Quite a large circumference. Yeah.
literally in chaos, or you can be at the top just like chilling.
Pirouetting.
And so the swing doesn't affect you, because the reality of life, whether you're a woman or a man, is that stuff happens. It's not the stuff that happens to you, it's how do you deal with it.
Yeah.
That's the important issue.
Yeah.
So it's not so much that you have a business or you have thousands of other issues. Stuff happens. How do you deal with it? That's the issue.
And then really your mind is the controller of your hormones. So if you want to balance your hormones, you need to work on balancing your mind and reducing your stress. That's why implementing self-care is such an important practice into our routines and anyone that's on that journey too.
So really taking accountability for that stress and managing it as best you can.
Accountability and Jesus said something beautiful. My people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Education, understanding, wisdom is knowledge. So we need to understand our bodies, what is going on, and how to deal with it. So what do you need, Juliet, to calm or self-regulate your system?
Yeah.
And do it. There's no shame in saying, actually, guys, I need some time out, or I'm not going to be drinking tonight.
Yeah.
Or I need to have some rest. My rule now is no dinners after 7.
Yeah. No way.
I just refuse to go out for dinner after 7.
It's not happening.
We had a guest, Serena Hood, on from Collagery a few weeks ago, and she said, I just get up and leave. People know that I will not be out past a certain time and I'm gone. And it's just hilarious. She's like,
that's me.
I'm not even rude anymore because people just know I'm just going to go to bed and that's who I am and I know myself. And I was like, I respect that. But I think we're such people pleasers, aren't we?
I agree. We're people pleasers and it's power. It's really empowering to actually say, thank you so much. It's not a reflection on you, but this is what I need. And so we self-regulate by following our needs. And there is no shame in that. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't need to apologize for it. We just need to do it and take care of ourselves.
Yeah. I find it fascinating that my colleagues are in their 20s and they are so much better at it than I am. But I've got more life experience. I should technically know more. But I look at them and they lead by example and I'm like, I am setting a terrible example. They just know themselves so much younger than I did. And I think maybe I'd grown up in a just do until it's done. Whereas they're like, no, there's more to life. And I respect it. So I'm learning from them, which is a thrill.
You love it, Julia. And it's a balance, because, if you're running your own business, the reality is that you do need to work harder.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's recognizing when your body needs to stop.
What are the dangers of hormonal imbalance?
It's not so much a danger, but you're just going to get symptoms, which is what I experienced. So you're going to get acne. You could be bloated or have lymphatic drainage issues. You could have higher inflammation, so be swollen. This can look like rashes or just higher increase of allergens all the time. Like if you're allergic to foods, it can look like weight gain, exhaustion, irritation, overwhelmness, mood swings. All of that really is kind of gut issues. Like it just looks like all of that.
So there's an alarm bell popping up somewhere, somehow.
Ditto. Honestly, ditto. So I think for menopause, it's exactly the same, minus the acne. It's literally every symptom that you've listed. I think for me, the hardest part was the exhaustion part of it.
Because energy is so important. Your energy levels, it can make or break a day where you're feeling like I can do anything, but you kind of need that deluded belief you can do anything. But when you don't have that, doubt yourself. So we as a team, we track our time because we work predominantly remotely and we look at what time we're spending on projects to see what client work works, what doesn't for us. Would you say tracking your energy levels is more important than your time?
100%. That's how we do it personally. I mean, to be honest, we have this very small team, so we really have to do a lot. So we will just bang out stuff if we've got all the energy. I'll use an example. Yesterday, I had such a long, important, urgent to-do list. These were like things that needed to be done ASAP. And they were really big tasks. And I kind of got halfway through it and it was getting to like 4:00. And I was like, oh my God, my skin started to itch and my eyes started to kind of get glossy and tired and I couldn't focus properly. And I thought, I really just need a break right now. So, because I thought I was going to power on and I was like, no, I'm going to go downstairs, do some self-care for 20 minutes. And I did that. And I felt so much better that I was able to do a little bit more work. And then I was like, okay, now I'm finished with the day. Like I actually can't do anymore. My brain, nothing is so important that you can't wait till tomorrow or wait an hour. Like really nothing will happen. And so there was a study actually that in 2017 that said that busyness was a acquired lifestyle, that people wanted to say that they were busy. It's like you ask someone how they are and you're like, I'm so busy.
I cannot wait, because I've clocked this as well. And it sounded, people asking me, I'm like, I'm really bored of hearing myself say this. I can't wait until someone asks me, go, yeah, no, I'm not busy. And the team are happy, the clients are happy, the revenue's there, and I'm not busy. And I got there in January and then it all undid itself. And I had a taste of it. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is so exciting. It's a goal. And the busy fool, no one wants to be a busy fool as well.
True.
Most of the time we're so busy, but we're putting in subpar work. So it's just like you should work smarter, not harder. And that's why self-regulation and nervous system regulation is such an integral part into my practice personally. A lot of my hormonal issues were because of my nervous system regulation. And until I sorted that out like fully, and that actually took a really long time to do.
Unlearning habits. So it takes a while.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we call it the eyeam prescription, which is the affirmations tied with the skincare, because it really is a prescription to help break programming. We practice affirmations every day to rewire your brain because that's possible.
And with tracking energy, how would you go about doing that? So Margo, in your experience, how have you really disseminated your energy levels?
So it's really recognizing how I feel. And before, like I said, we come from the old school. It's like you soldier on until you fall. And I literally would have to fall in order to rest. And then one day I said to myself, you know what? This is really stupid. Why do you need to be sick to rest? It was that huge guilt complex.
Pilots have caps on how many hours they can fly. Why shouldn't we? And I think we daft. I talked to my 20-year-old colleagues, well, they're 24, but say back in the day, the olden times before the pandemic, we would slog ourselves to work if we had head colds, and you were not allowed to take a day off because it's just a cold. Imagine now going to an office and sneezing on people. It'd just be like, you've got the plague, stay away. So that preemptive rest is super key. Do you feel the conversation around productivity should be more focused on quality of output rather than time worked?
100%. There's a really lovely book that I adore and I always recommend to everyone, and it's called The 4 Agreements. And it says that, one of the agreements is always do your best, and your best is not always the same. There are some days when your best is less than other days, and that goes back to your cycle syncing.
Exactly.
And on one day, your output will not be the same as another day, and that's completely fine. We just need to be recognizing that. Obviously, there's something wrong if someone's constantly
doing
subpar.
That.
Then that's a whole other issue. But if you're doing your best 100% every time, you can recognize that 100% is not always the same.
I saw a really nice thing on Instagram around this saying 100%, you give 100%, but if you're only feeling 30% of yourself and you give that 30%, that is 100%.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
How would you support your teams with this as well? Because I have the agency to look after myself. I'm running my own business, but how can I enable my teams to do this as well and look after my people?
So back in the day when I had a large team, I would always spot when someone was off, not themselves on that particular day. And I would then ask them, are you okay? Is everything okay? What's going on? Share, communicate, tell us. so that we and your colleagues can understand if you're not feeling well. And in fact, most of the office arguments would quite often come when somebody wasn't feeling themselves.
Yeah.
And somebody else would say something that would trigger them. And then that would go into a whole spiral. Whereas if everyone communicates and you come in and you say, oh, Juliet, by the way, I've got really bad cramps today. I've taken X, Y, and Z to help me, but I'm just letting you know in case I'm a little bit cranky. And my response always is, thanks so much for letting me know. Make sure that I'm mindful of that. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's super important. I had a colleague once and I was working back at Chanel and she's like, oh no, it's really obvious when you go to the gym or not before work. And I was like, what? She's like, you're a different person if you've come in when you've exercised and you haven't gone to the gym this morning. I was like, oh God, I'm really sorry.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
These things.
I went to the gym to be a nicer human to her in a way, because I knew that I'd be a better colleague if I'd done that for me and for the team, because I was clearer headed, I had more energy. And the fact it was so obvious, I was like, well, it's really embarrassing if I don't go to the gym, because I could go to the gym. And if I'm not, then, it's impacting them.
Well, that's a part of your healing toolbox. So everyone has their own healing toolbox. Like I notice the difference if I'm not exercising, if I'm not implementing my self-care. And when I'm actually working against my hormones all the time, then I actually start to get symptoms, because in actual matter of fact, PMS is common, but it's actually not a normal thing that should be happening in the body. But due to the lack of knowledge, research, and honestly, just information that is shared with everyone, we're made to feel like it's normal, because doctors will just want to give you the contraceptive pill to shut you up. Yeah, basically.
Same with IBS. Apparently, it's just a blanket. Well, it's not. There's not actually anything that's IBS. It's just a blanket. Go away now.
Half of the time is really understanding where your stress is coming from. And how can you quickly deal with it?
Yeah.
Because quite often you don't have hours and hours to go and do something. But how can you quickly deal with it? So, breath work really works.
It's called the 4-7-8 method. And you basically inhale for 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. And that will immediately get you into your parasympathetic nervous system. So if you're having a moment at work where you're like, oh my God, this is stressing me out, then you just do your 4-7-8 breath. You also humming is really good.
Talk to me about humming, because it's come at me from the NHS nurse who's trying to retrain my voice for me. She's like, humming, you need to hum all the time. And then I read an article about you in Tatler and you were talking about humming. And I was like, humming, it's coming at me from everywhere. Like, what is that?
Humming stops your thoughts from going round and round and round.
So we have a nerve that connects our brain and our gut.
Vagus nerve.
Vagus nerve, exactly.
Yes.
So the humming stimulates your voice box, which is connected to your vagus nerve. It touches it. So then that actually helps it vibrate. And then that's actually what helps the regulation. And in our hormone check drops, we've got an ingredient that's clinically proven to support your gut-brain skin axis and your vagus nerve, called timut pepper. It's amazing.
I love this. Well, I was going to ask you, my next question was, how much does nutrition impact your hormones? Which I'm assuming hugely. Because for me, like, I remember in the 80s, it was all about heart health, and the 90s was about mental health. And now it's gut health. You wake up in the morning and your vagus nerve will tell your brain how much dopamine, endorphin, serotonin, it tells you what you've got in the bank. But talk to me about nutrition and hormones.
Well, it's interesting because we recently did a workshop with Dr. Bruce Lipton. And he said your environment determines your state.
Yeah.
So your environment includes your food, the people around you, what you watch, what you read, what you listen to. So these are all nutrition. But of course, food is the number one because that's a physical thing.
Yeah.
And we could have a whole separate podcast on that.
Yeah. But if you wanted to look at like cycle syncing for hormonal specifically, if you're looking at different phases and what foods to eat. So during your follicular, you would eat more lighter foods than like chicken or vegetables like zucchini. In your ovulatory, estrogen loves salads. So you want to eat lots and lots of salads during this phase. And that's why you actually are your most energy. So naturally you're like ready to go. And so the salad will actually just keep feeding your estrogen. And then when you have your luteal, because your progesterone starts rising, then it's really important to feed it natural sugars and starchy foods. And if we actually go against this, then your glucose will go up. And that's what we experience, the PMS of the bloating and the inflammation. So actually just by feeding yourself a little bit more of the craving that you're having. So you're actually not being weak by, oh, I really fancy some chocolate. But if you eat an organic, unrefined version of everything that I just said, it is actually feeding your hormones, and then progesterone can function. And progesterone has a really calming effect on the mind and body. So if that is off kilter, then that's why we get the mood swings.
I feel like I've fast-tracked knowledge in this last 2 minutes and 49 seconds, learned a lot about a lot. Thank you. What would you say is your number one productivity? And I say this because during this season, everyone's like, don't push yourself to be more productive. It's got a real stigma attached to it. And me blindly going like, everyone wants to be more productive. And everyone's like, careful, because it's a bit of a bad word now. But what would you say would be the number one thing to do if you're starting this journey? Like your one hack around it, or how to be more productive. But I say that sort of caveated.
I personally think giving yourself permission to just be and do what you need in that moment, that will actually make you more productive.
And for me, it's getting out of your own head. I always find thinking about the to-do list takes more energy than the to-do list. Stop worrying about the to-do list and just take one task at a time.
We track our time, as I mentioned, with Toggle, and in there is a podcasting, a reading, a walking, a just going off and thinking. And one of my team came to the Monday call and said success and failure from the week before. And we always do this every Monday because success and failure need to be embraced. And she's like, oh, so stuck on this thing. It was driving me mad. So I just put my laptop down. I went for a really long walk and I came back with that solution and this solution. I was like,
yes.
It's walking
so
meditation.
Good. Yeah, because you're away and you're thinking and your eyes and ears are engaged elsewhere. And that's when they bubble. Your subconscious helps you out.
Well, actually, that's your brain, because when it's not in the mode of operating and functioning and having to think about all these tasks, and it has a moment to just flow, then that's actually that. Do you notice that you get your best ideas in the shower because you're not thinking of anything? So when you're not thinking of anything, that's why meditation is such an amazing, it's basically a download. Mum and I get them all the time in our sleep.
Yes. Well, my counsellor said that. She's like, she gave me this hack around dreaming, because she said your subconscious is there to help. When you go to bed, say to yourself, I'm allowed to dream. And every time I've done it, I dream. I was like, well, I haven't dreamt for 6 months. I really miss it. She's like, just remind yourself you're allowed to dream. And I go to sleep and I have these crazy dreams and come out being like,
yeah, it's the best feeling.
So something that we do is the guest from the episode before has a question for you guys. And I won't tell you who it is unless you want me to. But she said her question was, how important is it for you to trust? And how easy is it for you to trust people? Because for her and everyone, loyalty is everything within a business, especially a startup. And until you trust people, you can't embrace loyalty. So what are your thoughts and feelings around trust?
Yeah, okay. So this is a really, really, really important question. And both Roxy and I have a very, very strong spiritual practice. We're with a spiritual Christian church, and there's a very powerful connection to God. And so when you allow that channel to come through, then it's called spiritual intelligence and spiritual discernment. Yeah. You immediately know when something's off and something's...
It's the same as intuition.
Or not.
We'll know immediately.
Yeah. Because I've always put it down to gut feeling. That's my obsession with gut health, as many years ago suffered from that and did a lot of healing around that. But your gut feeling is like asking your mum for advice. And I'm very jealous that you're in business with your mum, Roxy, because my mum is always right. She always knows the answers. And it's that intuition and that gut feeling, that reaction to somebody that you can have, even if they haven't said a single word, you have this kind of chemical connection with somebody.
Yeah.
And they say that you can sense somebody walk into a room even if you haven't seen them. And I've been having debates with mum about this. We were talking about Reiki the other day. She's like, it's ridiculous. And this person quoted to do some Reiki healing. She's like, well, I don't need to talk to you. I don't need a Zoom. I'm going to sit at home and think about you. And mum's like, that's utterly ridiculous. And I was like, but mum, there's something about energy that I can't deny it. I'm
Yeah,
still
we are
learning about
energy.
it.
We are energy.
We can change everything if we want to, but the programming is so ingrained in us that we can't.
Yeah.
And our mind actually stops us from believing everything.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm going back to our I am affirmations, is because we are here to reprogram those limiting beliefs, because that's actually the only way that you can experience true healing.
Yeah.
You can do everything else. You could do all the
It's just
food and
practical.
exercise and whatever. It doesn't matter if your mind is not on the train with you.
Yeah. The mind controls the body.
Yeah.
And the spirit is the source. So it comes from that way down.
Yeah.
Incredible. And what would your question be?
Do you feel good where you're at right now in your life? What's standing out to you, and what needs to be decluttered out of your life? Really?
Yeah. Because less is more in the sense that you got less problems, less things to think about. You can focus and get into that flow state. And thank you so much. It's wonderful to meet you both.
Yeah.
Huge
Likewise.
congratulations on your new business. And I'm sure it will go from strength to strength, but in a really healthy, supportive, positive way. So well done.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
I really hope you've enjoyed this conversation. You can find a recap of all the advice so kindly shared by our guest in the show notes, along with their contact details. We'd love it if you could rate and review or share this podcast, because it really does help other people discover it. To incentivize this a little, I would very happily offer you one of our PR guides on how to share editorial coverage legally. Just DM us or send us an email, hello@fallowfieldmason.com, with review in the title, and we'll share it on.